Hey guys, and welcome to today's task. For today's task, we're going to be getting rid of this load-bearing beam. But because the termite damage is so bad on the beam and on the post that it's sitting on, I have to replace it. And I'm going to show you how today. I do want to show a quick tip though. If you're wondering how to identify a load-bearing beam versus a non-load-bearing beam, which you've already seen me remove, a load-bearing beam typically will have two traits. First trait is it will run parallel to the pitch of the roof or perpendicular to your trusses. So in theory, this wall looks like it would be a load-bearing beam. The trusses on this portion of the house run this direction, and you can kind of see the black lines that have followed them. That beam is perpendicular to them, which makes it obviously a load-bearing wall. This wall, however, runs with the trusses, so I am very confident that this is not a load-bearing beam. So that's way number one that you can identify if it's a load-bearing beam. Way number two, we're down in the basement, and once again, these floor joists are running this direction. That's where the weight is, and this wall is running this direction. This wall is without a doubt a load-bearing wall. The second way you can tell is to look at what the wall sits on. This wall sits on a cement foundation, which tells me it is supporting the weight of the house. This carries a heavier load than the load-bearing walls upstairs. This is what we call a floor load. And then upstairs they're called a roof load, and they are dramatically different. So you do have to be careful when you're eliminating one. You need to know what you're dealing with, and you need to spec it properly through an engineer. I don't want anybody to assume that I know exactly what your load is going to be in your area you live. They're totally different. Here in Cache Valley, we're an hour further north than my parents and Bonnie's parents, and the load for our roofs is completely different. So you need to talk to an engineer in your area before you start moving walls. Since I'm going to be replacing this beam, I only need to build a temporary supporting wall. So we are going to build a temporary supporting wall right here and shove it against that sheetrock, and all that's going to do is just transfer the load so we can move this. Let's build a temporary wall. Oh, did you guys notice my new hat? New today's task hat. I will announce when these bad boys are available. Okay, that may not seem like it's a lot, but all we're doing is cradling the load for a temporary purpose. And part of the load is already cradled because of that back wall back there. So realistically, we are totally fine to pull this down now and pull that beam. When it comes to taking down this beam, I really need to think about my safety, and I need to think about how I'm going to manage this much weight. With it weighing a couple 100 pounds, I can't just cut one end and then just let it fall. I don't have enough manpower here or anything like that. But it is manageable if we take it a bite at a time. So the plan is to keep this support here, and we're going to cut this section out. Then we'll come over here and cut this section out. And then with what's hanging on that ladder, we'll be able to finish that small section off as well. Just like that, our beam is completely gone. I can see the bottom of all of the floor joists that it was supporting, and we're gonna re-support those. Now it's time to prep and get ready for the new beam to come in. First, we gotta start with our jack studs and all of our measurements. I wasn't planning on moving that beam, but since it's rotten and we have to, I'm gonna take advantage of that work and bring it straight on with this wall so that it's a straight shot down into the basement. I've cut the wall back to where it's going to be in line with this new wall. In doing so, it's made this stud become a king stud. It goes floor to ceiling, and that's exactly what we want. This is the old jack stud, and it no longer will work for our new beam we're putting in. And because there was never a king stud to begin with, put right here, we're just gonna go ahead and put one in. Before I can put our new king stud in, we're gonna rip out this old jack stud because we're gonna measure for new ones. And the reason we ripped out our old jack studs, sorry, I'm saying those words over and over again. but that's just the way it's got to be. Sorry guys. The reason they're different is because our beams are actually 2 different dimensions now. Here's our old beam at 11¼ inches. That's a big piece of wood. This is dry Doug fir timber. Here's our new beam at 9½ inches. This is what we call an LVL. There is glue laminated into all of the different layers. If the original beam would have been an LVL to begin with, the termites would have never gotten through it. They don't like the glue as much, but dry termites, as they're called, love old dry timber. Also, because we are using an LVL, we can shrink the beam down to 9½ inches as opposed to 11¼ inches. That may not seem like a big difference, but it really is. When it comes to header height and walking underneath it, that gives me a little bit more height for somebody taller. I don't have that issue, but taller people do. Now because that top piece is not quite perfectly flush with our king stud, I'm gonna go ahead and cut that and just make it look nice and smooth for the beam to support against. Here's the fun part of framing. I know that from the floor to the very top of where this beam is gonna go is 91 inches. I know that this beam is 9½ inches tall, so I need to take, yeah, this is my phone, don't judge me. 91 minus 9.5 equals 81½ inches. That is exactly how big our jack studs are going to need to be. Jack studs done. Okay, with all of our studs, I'm not gonna say them again. King and jack stud, I did, there we go. We are ready to put this beam in. So now I need to know the exact dimension of from that shelf to this shelf, and that's what we're gonna cut those LVLs to. Hey Joel, good thing you're a genius and put both jack studs up at the same time. Okay, this is the scary part to me because if you ruin these, you gotta buy all new ones. And these are not cheap. They're not that expensive. They're about 55 bucks per board, which isn't that bad, but that's $100 I don't wanna spend again. I am intentionally only gonna have this side be set in place. And this jack stud is sitting right here at an angle because we are gonna set the new beams on it and then lift it like a jack into place. I'm not gonna show you the failure that was trying to do it the other way when I knew better. So yeah, there you go. That's the one thing about doing projects by yourself. You're gonna screw it up and then you're gonna do it right the second time. That's just the way it is. Because I do want these to stay together as much as possible, for right now, I'm just gonna put a couple of nails in it. Now we're ready to push up with our jack stud and we're gonna slide it right up into place. And it being a tight fit is not a bad thing. Now, this, like this, is wedged in there. It's not going anywhere. I'm not really concerned about it, but I do want to make this house a little bit better than I found it. So we are going to strap this with earthquake proofing straps. Just this little bit of difference here will make a huge difference in the structural integrity of this beam. And we want to do the same thing to the other side. Now you're going to go back and nail these together as much as you want. This beam is holding up trusses that are behind this truss. They connect here and they're actually being held right here. I want to try and make sure that these are connected to it so that there's no slip or slide at all. So we need to put a toenail in here and everywhere I see nails along this. And that, my friends, is how you put a beam on a load-bearing wall. It is not an easy task, it is a big task, but it is something you can do and something you can save yourself some money by doing by yourself. I will link in the description all of the tools that I use down below, and if you guys are interested in checking out any of my other videos, I will link those in the description as well. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell that'll let you know when I upload every single Friday. Until then, we'll see you guys next time. Oh yeah, by the way, you can take away your secondary wall now. Awesome. Listen. For today, that is so rotten in there. Look at that. Here's the fun part of doing. Restate that. Hold on. Okay. I don't like the way the footage is going. The footage is garbage now.